Hey guys, welcome back. Another week, another episode here at Better Love Live. I'm in studio and it's the Better Love podcast. I am with Mike C-Roc, tech founder of Blooprinted. And I think it's coming out right now. He's also an entrepreneur, performance coach. He's an overall badass. Hey C-Roc, how are you doing?
What's happening, Carm? Hey, listen, I start every interview I go on, and I do a lot of these, but with gratitude, because I'm really thankful for the opportunity that I get to, have to share with you and your audience. And I want to thank your audience for showing up as well. So.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God. I can't wait to have this conversation. So we met at the Breakfast with Champions Consortium a couple of weeks ago. So really, I got to know you there and I got to know you on Clubhouse. What's your handle on Clubhouse, by the way?
It's Mickey C-Roc, Mikeycroc.
All right. You guys got to follow Mickey C-Roc also on Clubhouse because he's an epic dude. Tell me about this app and what compelled you to get into tech, or have you always been in tech?
Well,
let's hear about it.
Yeah, no, I have not always been in tech. And that's the good thing about what we're doing at 10X Incubator. Blooprinted is the first app that's coming out this week, actually, the first phase. But the fact of the matter is we look for non-tech entrepreneurs that have a tech idea that would normally go to the grave with the idea and nobody would ever hear about it because that person doesn't have the resources. They don't have the know-how, the confidence, the finances. And so what we do is we pair these co-founders up with their idea with everything they need. And we launch. And the plan with 10X Incubator, as like I said, Blooprinted is the first product coming out, is to launch 10,000 tech companies in the next 10 years. And so,
wow, that's a lot of impact. 10,000 tech companies in 10 years. So that's a pace of 1,000 companies a year. But I mean, knowing Grant, he's going to 10X that, right? Like, who knows what is going to happen. So what is Blooprinted? And was this something that you was in your brain, or because of the incubator, you thought of it?
No, that we have this idea prior to the incubator. There's a guy named Jared Yellen, who's my partner, and he's the co-founder of 10X Incubator with Grant. Jared Yellen is a guy I met on Instagram, and I do a lot of DMing. This is before Clubhouse even. I would reach out to people like crazy, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, just reaching out to people that I thought were interesting. And I really didn't have a specific reason except for to build relationships. And I know that nobody would want to work with me. Nobody would want to do anything with me if they don't know who I am. So I wanted to make sure I did everything in my power and took responsibility to make sure people knew who C-Roc was. And so I did that. And I met Jared Yellen and we just hit it off. He's just a genuine dude. He wants to level the playing field in the tech industry. And I'm a people builder. And Carm, I came from a broken home. I don't remember my parents together. I grew up with a lot of broken people, broken relationships, drugs, anxiety, depression, suicide, a lot of stuff like that as a kid. And so growing up, I was just never okay with the reasons people were saying they were doing these things. All the BS that they told themselves and they were okay with so that they could live with themselves. I wasn't okay with it. I never bought it. And I was always trying to fix people and help them and I'm talking about as a young kid. Right. And so it's always been ingrained in me to try to help and fix and make people better. And so as I got older, I realized that I'm on a mission that all people are unstoppable to live in the life of their dreams. And once I found this mission, I was able to make binary decisions, either going towards that or away with my thoughts, actions, and words. And so Blooprinted is a way to allow people that want to accomplish something, business, being a better parent, relationships.
Oh my God, there's a blueprint for parenting. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Or there will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Or, finding the right man, finding the right woman. How should I act? Look, a lot of people in relationships and they're dating, they want to find the right person, but they're not willing to look at themselves first. They're looking outward. When I think to me, and I think this is a great topic for the show right here, is that you got to look at yourself. And so there could be a 100%. Blueprint of how to look in yourself first and create the best version of you to go out. And then that'll draw in the people that you need, that you're looking for to date.
I love that.
Yeah. So this just creates unstoppable people.
Coming from, as you said, a broken home, a family, parents were divorced. Were you in foster care? Or were you raised by a mother and father, or did you bounce between homes? What was your childhood like?
Well, I did the every other weekend thing with my dad until I
Okay.
was 8. And then I moved from there. My mom was moving on to her third marriage. And I wasn't okay moving into another man's house, learning another man's rules. At 8, I was pretty independent and determined,
Already?
stubborn, and I decided to give my dad's house a try. And I told my mom, and she let me go. And later on in life, I found out that she'd cried herself to sleep at night. Her heart was broken. And,
Aw.
I didn't know that at the time, but I did what I thought was best for me at the time. And I gave my dad's
Yeah.
house a shot. He was on to his second marriage, and it worked out
Okay.
great at first. But then I started being in a situation where my stepmom, my mom didn't get along. My dad, there was conflict. I didn't know the whole story, but then it would come down on us kids. And I dealt with
Right.
abuse. I used to sleep with my baseball bat when I was 9 years old because of the things I was seeing and hearing. And so, no, not a foster home, but it was a situation where I guess if you're dealing with most of the time, you're with a stepmom who you really don't know, it's kind of like a foster home,
Right.
And
Did
so,
you ever think that you could go back to your mom? Was that an option or you just wanted to stick it out?
so great question. So at first I thought this is an ordinary situation because I really didn't know any better. Like I thought this is the way the world
Right.
is, right? And then I
Right.
started visiting friends' houses and seeing what their families were like. And then I realized, you know what? I don't have to put up with this crap. So I told my mom what was going on, which I had withheld from her for, a
Right.
while. And she said, listen, that's unacceptable. You don't need to be in that condition. I'm going to file court papers. But if I do this, it's very important that you understand you cannot leave me out hanging out to dry. This is serious and you need to stick to your guns. They're going to try to talk you out of it. You need to stick. So that lesson stuck with me my whole life. Stick to your guns. And so finally, after weeks and weeks and weeks, my dad got these papers who I didn't share with him that this was going on, of course.
Yeah.
And I came home from school one day and the tension in the room was like, man, you could feel it. And I knew something was up. And I already walked on
And you
eggshells.
were, how old were you? You were 8 years old or were you older at that
No,
point?
this time I was about 10.
10.
And
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So you're in elementary school. You're a young kid.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And then
And
so
then you come home
I come home.
and then what happens?
My dad was my hero, by the way. He had his masonry
Okay.
company. He owned a company, masonry, poured block, brick, and all that. Very successful, did well. He had these big forearms, rough hands. Like if you shake his hand, you could tell. I looked up to him for that. But the other thing is, if you know Italians, we don't carry wallets. Most of us, we carry wads of money with rubber band around it.
Okay.
My dad did that.
Yeah.
And he used to have a wad of $100 bills and he used to flash it all the time. And I used to look up to him for that. And
Yeah.
so when he came back and confronted me about these court papers, he said, I don't understand. You got everything you need here. You're going to go back to your mom's house where she has men coming in and out. She's on to her third marriage. She's broke. And you want to move into that? But all I could hear in my mind was stick to your guns, stick to your guns. He's going to try to sell you. I stuck to my guns. I said, no, I'm not discussing this. I made my mind up. He said, okay. So he takes that wad of $100 bills out. He peeled one off and crumpled it up and threw it at me and said, here, then you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother one day. And, the first thing that went through my head,
That's the last, did you see your dad after that? Like, did you do the alternating weekends or you didn't?
No. So here's what happened. First thing I thought through my head was, what did I do? Like, this is going to end all, like, I did something bad here.
Right.
But then I also thought a little spark came in me. The stubbornness kicked in and it's like, nah, dude, come on. I'm not going to need that money. I'll show you. And so for my whole life, I lived off that moment. Like I'm not going to ever need that money. I'm going to be really successful. I'm going to blow you away. You're going to be like, so sorry you did that. These are the thoughts that went through my head as a kid until I was really about 40 years old. But yeah, after that moment, I had to live in that house, as awkward as it was, uncomfortable as it was. While all the courts did their thing, I went to child psychologists to make sure I was mature enough to make a decision. They said that I was more mature and smart than the adults in the report. So that didn't bode well either for me in that situation. And finally, I moved to my mom's and then just never went back and didn't see my dad for another 10 years.
10 years. And this was a man that you had looked up to. Did it change in that moment, C-Roc? And look at what it did. I mean, you are today, from what I can see, and from the books and this tech thing, like you consider yourself a successful person, yes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just always up, always going up. Like never make it.
Has your dad expressed him being proud of you? Have you repaired that relationship? What's it like now?
Yeah. So for 10 years, I thought to myself, how could he do that and like pick someone over his son and not stand up for me. He used to do this thing when they would fight. Behind her back, he would wink at me and like give me a thumbs up, just like, ride it out, dude. Just ride it out. This is the way she is. Just ride it out.
Yeah.
And I lost confidence in that at some point, obviously, right? So for 10 years, I didn't see him. They would go on vacations, and this is how my stepmom was. She would send pictures of their vacations and send them to me and in the mail, and a handwritten thing acting like it was coming from my sisters, but it wasn't. You could tell it was like vindictive. And so I dealt with that as well. To me, I used it all as fuel though. Like my whole life, this is what I wrote Rocket Fuel about. Everything that comes my way that tries to stop me, discourage me, slow me down, my own screw ups, I stored in my tank instead of my trunk where most people keep their stuff. So it doesn't, it doesn't weigh me down. I use it as fuel to become unstoppable. And that's what that's part of my success. So my grandfather was on his deathbed when I was 10 years later, and I went back to see him, and my dad was there, and it was the first time I'd run into him, and I just hugged him. And from there, we started a relationship again. And we went to dinner. He got to see my kids, and then my stepmother got in again and ruined it. So now I don't see him. Oh my
God. Wait,
I try.
10 years later, 10 years later, you were already married with kids, or you already had kids?
Yeah. So no, it was like maybe not quite 10 years. No. I saw him. No, I saw him in 10 years. But then when I got married and had kids, he was able to see my kids. So I got to see him again just as I was getting ready to get married. And then in my early 20s. And then when I had kids, he was there now. But after a few years,
so he didn't go to your wedding.
Yeah, he did.
Go to your wedding.
No, he was there.
I
met him. Okay. Yeah, I got back with him right before my wedding. And but years after that, my stepmom jumped in again for some reason and started trouble with my wife out of the blue. It was just like the craziest irrational stuff. And now my dad doesn't respond to texts. We don't see each other, and it is what it is. So I tried, but at the end of the day, all I can do is learn from it and be the best person, husband, father. Like I just got to be the best I can be to exemplify what you're supposed to do. And that's what I do.
So you have children now. How old are your kids?
15-year-old Nick, and Sophie is getting ready to turn 9.
Sophie, did you say?
Yeah. Yep.
A boy and a girl. Amazing.
Yep.
So what did you look for in a partner, given that, you came from such a difficult, childhood, and both your parents had multiple partners. So what was your criteria when you got married?
So the thing that I looked at, and this is going to sound to some people, they may not agree with this. I know better. My grandfather told me that when he met my grandmother, and by the way, this is again, some broken stuff, right? My mom's dad, when he met his wife, my grandmother, who ended up committing suicide later on in life.
Oh,
he saw the father, when he first went to the house, offered him a glass of liquor straight, offered that to him when he first walked in the door. And the guy drank a lot. He was an alcoholic, and there was problems there. My grandfather saw this ahead of time, but he still ended up marrying her. What I did was I remember my grandfather telling me that. And so what I did was, when I met my wife, the first time I saw her, I'm like, man, I'm going to marry her. I honestly felt that feeling like, wow, how does she get here? And that's another story in itself.
Do you remember did you meet at a party? Did you meet? I'm the matchmaker. I want to hear how you met. No. So there was a guy that one of my best friends and my business partner, Jason, he was dating a girl, and she was very nice, but she was just like all the time, like clingy. Right. And I said, listen, if she's going to come over to our house, I had a house I owned. He was renting a room off of me. I said, if she's coming over here, she has to bring friends. And so, I look back, I don't like the person that I was back in my 20s, like as much as I do. I mean, I feel good about myself now as far as being on the right track. But I said, she's got to bring friends. And she brought some friends over, and I just didn't click. Well, I came home from work one day, and I walked in the kitchen, and I looked over to the living room and saw on the couch, and I saw my wife, Jen. And I'm like, holy cow, please tell me she's not here to try to sell me something. Like, please let that be one of Kim's friends. And it ended up being one of her friends. And I just like instantly was just like, this is like what I've been looking for my whole life. So to answer your question before. By a look, by a look.
The way she smiled. I mean, I just had a feeling like, well, and I think that you can get the attraction a lot of times is the looks at first, right? But then from there, it carried on. And so I guess it's like, check the box. Okay, I'm attracted to her. The next check, and you check the box as you go along. And I'm sure,
exactly.
Yeah, listen, and I had to, I didn't know that she'd be attracted to me. You know, I didn't know, but I was going to make sure that I did everything to make sure that happened. So, but
Yeah.
I looked at her parents to answer your question. I looked at her parents. I looked at her family and I paid attention to that. What kind of marriage did her parents have? You know,
And what kind of marriage did her parents have?
And what kind of relationship did she have with her sisters? And no, they were they're a conservative family, but they've been married since they were young. They were high school sweethearts. They've been married now. Then I don't know how long a long time, obviously, at that point. And they went to church. He worked hard. He was running a company. The mom was just loving and caring and so hospitable and just very unconditional love.
Because of your experience, you wanted to date somebody that came from a more stable home, correct?
Yeah. That had the model of what it was supposed to be like. And I knew what to look for because I saw all the wrong things.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, you are who you are today because of what you had experienced, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can look and justify and all these things, right? But who knows what I would have been otherwise if it was a great family. I could have been further along. I don't know that. All I know is you get what you get, and then you go and use it as fuel and become unstoppable to live in the life of your dreams. That's what I do. But the thing is that I didn't repeat the cycle. You know, I'm very proud to say I've been married almost 18 and a half years to one lady. It's getting better every day. And I try to continuously work on it every single day and be the best I possibly can be for her, for my kids. It means something to me.
I love that. So where did you, I know that you are part of 10X and you created the 10X incubator, or that was your thought. Are you from real estate? Like, tell me about your road to success. What has your career path been like? And have you always been an entrepreneur, or did you ever work for anybody?
So, but just to clarify, I connected Jared Yellen with Grant. They made 10X Incubator, just to be clear. I don't want to take credit for something, but no, I've been in real estate since 2005. Been in sales since 1998 and got into real estate. I had my real estate license and became a loan officer after that. And after a few years, I was like, I'm not staying in this position. I'm going to continue to go. And I decided with my best friend, Chris, who we went to elementary school all the way up to college together, we decided to start building branches of mortgage company branches. And we built 7 branches, 40 some employees. We've done we got to be close to 75 to 80 million in revenue in mortgage business. So it's so far.
That's what you're doing now. It's still operational, your mortgage business.
Yeah. So I set it up. I set it up where my leadership team, they run the day-to-day. I do meetings in the morning and anytime they have issues or anything like that. And I watch the stats and numbers and, run the business part of it. But the most of my day is podcasting, reaching out to people, building tech, just building relationships. Like I said, I just got done writing Rocket Fuel, which came out in May. And so now
congratulations. Where can we get Rocket Fuel?
It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon, or you can go to MikeC-Roc.com and you can get the book.
How long did it take you to write that book? And did you ever think you were going to be an author, or did someone say you should write a book? Like, tell me about that.
Theoretically, it took my whole life, right? Because it's got some of the story of my life in it, but practically a year and a half. But I think that what happened, I was at the GrowthCon, 10X GrowthCon in Miami back in 2019. And right before that, I had this itch that I need to be speaking. Like, I see all these speakers and I do this with my team every day. Like, I should be getting this out there. I'm playing too small of a game. Like, this is, I'm just letting myself down with my potential. And so I started going after it, and I went to 10X GrowthCon and I saw a guy named Pete Vargas, and he was basically the first time he'd been in such a big audience. He's sweating. He looked scared. And he'll admit this to himself. He's
Pete Vargas looks scared.
I
thought he was a speaker.
Yeah, he is. But he'll tell you the story. He was like sweating and it looked scared. But he got on there, and I just looked at that and I saw him tell the story about him and his father. And I'm like, I got a story to tell. Why haven't I told my story? And then I also realized that if Pete can do this, and I heard his story where he came from, I'm like, I don't see why I couldn't do this. So I started thinking about that, and I went and worked with Pete and learned how to, formulate a signature story, how to sell from stage if I decided to sell a product from stage, how to connect with the audience. And I did that, and I started doing it. I did 300 podcast interviews the first year. mine and with some and other people's. I just like really leaned into it. And from there, while I was doing that, I'm like, well, shoot, I'm studying Grant, by the way. And I'm like, he wrote a book, several books. I need to write a book. And so I decided to write a book about becoming unstoppable by using everything that's usually you would think designed to stop you. And while I was writing the book,
Great title.
Thank you. And while I was writing it, I told my team, I said, Grant Cardone's going to write the foreword for this book. And we're going to do everything that we do right now to make this a bestseller from the start to finish. And he is going to write this forward. Anybody that's not on board with this, and I'm talking to the publisher and my assistant and editors, anybody that's not on board with this, you have to get off the ship right now because we're going in this direction. And Carm, I'm the type of person, I have this shirt on today. I just noticed, control the future. I have to go, once I decide something, I have to get it. And it's not like greed. It's not about that. It's about a decision and commitment and being ethical with it, of course, but I go get it and it's happening. And I'll remove anybody that just says otherwise from my vicinity because I have to flow in a certain direction. And so I wrote that book and I made sure it kind of put me on the hot seat to have a quality product, but I also didn't know how I was going to do this yet. So he never wrote a forward before, apparently. So I reached out to Jared Glenn.
You approached Grant to write the forward and he said yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know that. I committed to making him do it before I even asked him, or before I even knew how I was going to ask him. So when I was approaching the final manuscript, I reached out to Jared Glant, who became a friend of mine. He's the president of Cardone Enterprises. And I said, hey man, can I get a quote from you for the book? And he said, yeah, sure. And I said, all right, good. And then I was kind of tiptoeing and I'm like, because look, again, when I committed, I'm getting it, right? I'm not like, I got to figure this out, but I didn't want to make him feel uncomfortable if he had to tell me no. You know, you ever been in that situation where you have a relationship with someone and you want to ask him for something, but you're kind of like tentative because you don't want to affect the relationship? And so I just said, and how about Grant? Do you think he would write the forward for me? And he goes, I don't think he's ever done that before. And I don't think he would just do it for just anybody. And if he did it, he definitely wouldn't do it for free. I'm like, okay, well, give me the details, bro. Like, come on, let's, because I'm in my mind, this is happening. So later on, he comes back and he says, Grant said he wouldn't just do it for anybody, but he'll do it for you because you've exemplified what we represent and all that. But it's 75,000. And I'm like, holy, like 75. I had a 5 minutes of a little bitch moment. Like, I was like, I can't believe he would charge 70. I mean, are you kidding me? Like the nerve, this and that. And then after a while, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not built like this. Like if he wants to charge for that and he values his time like that, that's on him. And I get the choice of whether I want to do it or not.
Right.
And then the next thought that came through my head is I might be crazy enough to just do this. Now I knew I wasn't going to make 75 grand from the book. It's the first book. I never wrote a book before. It's, you don't make a whole lot of money in books directly what's the word I'm looking for? Like, indirectly you can.
I mean, I don't know if you did a book tour, but intrinsically having a book, by the way, C-Roc, if you don't already know, I mean, you can get a lot of press and media from that book, right?
Yeah. Which I did, but directly you're not going to make that money. Right. So, but I was like, what if I did do this? Like, how could I justify this? And how could I get it done? And how could I not use all of my money? And so I started to think, and I went to my wife with this and she goes, I don't know why you're contemplating this. Like when you want something, like you already made your mind up. And I'm like, okay, she gave me the green light. So then I went to my publisher and polled, I'm like polling people, which you should probably never do. And like polling, like whether they agree or not. And my publisher said, sounds like you made your mind up. And I'm like, all right, I guess so I went to my partners in the mortgage business. They're all my best friends. I grew up with them. We do everything together. Like besides the mortgage, any other thing that we do, tech, whatever, we're all in it together. And I told them, I said, guys, I'm going to do this with or without you, but I would love for you guys to be on board with this and we'll do everything together. The tech, everything we do together. Like I'll cut you guys in, whatever we do. And each and every one of them, when I went one by one to them, they said, let's roll. I got your back. I believe in you. You can do amazing things. Let's roll. So that 75 grand got divided 4 ways and then it's a tax write-off. So it really, from 75 down to 12 or 13 grand it cost me. I got him to write the forward. And then his name's on the cover. And of course that added instant credibility for me. But the big reason I tell you that, Carm, is that is what opened the door for me to have a meeting. I believe, because they thought, yeah, they saw how committed I was and how crazy I might be, crazy committed to having that meeting with Jared Yellen, my other partner, to start the 10X incubator. So you don't know, you never know what's going to happen, right?
Absolutely. So indirectly, it paid off anyway.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, and you manifested what you wanted, you paid the price, and now you know as well, Grant values his time. To have his name on your book, your first book ever, that's pretty epic. He's an epic person, you know, and you're an epic person. So that attachment made sense. So good investment.
Yeah. Yeah. Like think about this for a second though. Now I don't stop. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's on the book. That can't be just like what we do. Right. I got to make this a story. Like if you're thinking about a movie, right? I know Joe Rogan talked about be the hero of your own movie, but like, I think this way though. I'm like, okay, well, that's just the beginning. So now what if I was the person that learned from Grant from the beginning and then ended up doing something crazy that we elevated him to something, the biggest thing he's ever done. Now, like this is some crazy things that goes through my head. Most people don't think this way, and I don't even know if it's going to happen. I feel that it will, but we get to this point where we do this tech incubator. Blooprinted is the first product. I already have a plan laid out how this is going to become a $15 billion company. If that's the case, that blows the real estate part away with just one tech company that he's done. And it's the story that it started where I started mentorship with him and then on through. What a great story that would be. So this is the kind of thing I paint vividly in my mind. And I don't know how to do it a lot of times when I commit to it. I get scared a lot of times with the thoughts that come through my head because it puts a lot of pressure on me. But then it seems like people just appear out of the woodworks to help me out do it. It's just crazy.
So do you believe in the power of manifestation and visualization? Do you talk about that in Rocket Fuel? Because so many things you shared with me are really about manifestation and visualization, like you and commitment. Obviously, you have an insane drive. If you want something, you're getting it. And you literally spoke it into existence. Thoughts become actions and they become reality, right? Which you talked about. And you did this at 8 years old. That's incredible. Coming from that background. So something in your parents, you inherited these genetics or whatever, incredible work ethic, extreme drive. So what about the power of manifestation? Is that something that you believe in, you subscribe to?
Yeah. So I don't just believe in it. I've experienced it. Right. So it's sometimes you can believe in something before you see it, which I've done. But I've not only believe it, I experience it, and it happens over and over again. And when it doesn't happen when I want it to, I go back to being clear with my vision, deciding or committing, and then being consistent with all my words, thoughts, and actions towards that, not away from it. That binary decision towards or away clears a lot of confusion and chaos out of your life. And so absolutely, I believe that I'm in control and the source of everything that happens in my life. I cause and create futures. And that's the way I believe. And I'm not going to be talked out of it because I've experienced it already. And if the people don't do that themselves, they're going to hate on it. They're going to say that it doesn't work. It's just because they don't believe and they don't practice it.
Well, C-Roc, what is your biggest vice? I mean, you seem like you're super clear and super focused. What's the thing that you work on that we don't know about?
I'm very clear on this as well. My patience. And what I mean by that is like, I don't snap on people or anything like that. My kids get on me like quick, like they are stubborn and they just like me. So like my kids will not listen to me. And I'm like, guys, come on now, you know, but patience in that I want the result. As soon as I see it in my head, like I want it, like what's taking so long? Like, this is ridiculous, you know, that kind of thing. And I think that we need to understand that you cannot give birth to an adult. Like you gotta, you know, like things have to take time. A frog doesn't just pop out of a tadpole like really fast, right? So patience. And I would say the other thing would be, I mean, that's the main thing I've been working on. And I'm trying to think of some other things. I mean, I think there's other things that I've been doing, but that's the main one.
So when C-Roc has a bad day or a down day, what gets you up? I mean, you're already highly motivated. So, or do you not allow yourself to have down days?
No, you have to have down days because there's good and bad, right? Dark and light. I mean, you wouldn't have good days if you didn't have some bad days. I write my goals down I mean, you can see like this is things filled pages after pages, right? I write these down. I study. I'm big into reading and studying, not just reading, but really comprehending and understanding what I'm reading. But the other thing, sometimes like I'm sitting here in the studio and I got screens all over the place, right? And I get like so intense on something. But then what I'll do is I'll go take a walk and I'll just look at nature, not talk, not anything, just look at things and observe things and realize things that if I'm having a bad day, let's say I'm anxious or like impatient. Well, I'll go out and just take a nice slow walk and not be in a hurry to go anywhere and just see how the trees just sway. It just works for me. There's little assists like that I'll use. And then I'll go hang out with the family, and realize that, hey, like this stuff doesn't really matter that much as the family, and
right.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things, I focus on, and it seems to work. By the way, when I'm a people person, if you couldn't tell. And another thing I'll do is I'll reach out to someone and just talk and see if I can't help them with something. A lot of times that works too.
Oh, that's amazing. I was going to ask you, like, when you slide into someone's DMs, they don't know you. What kind of thing do you say? Because this is great. The power of networking, being able to connect with people, that's a skill that a lot of people don't have. So what's your secret formula to making an impression to someone that you don't know? Is there blueprint for that? Like the blueprint for the perfect DM? What's the blueprint for that?
Yeah, of course. So prior to Clubhouse, it was more of, I got to put out content and I got to develop my social media platform so that it looks like I'm serious and I'm committed. So that when I reach out to someone and what do they do first? They go to your profile to see who this guy is. When they go to my profile, it better be something that they have a great experience with, and it punches them a little bit. And they're like, yeah, dude, I want to be around this guy. So what I think in my mind, Carm, is I think I want to create an attraction model. And if I feel that, like, if I have my mission clear, which is all people are unstoppable to living a life of their dreams, and I'm living it, like holding to that standard, in my life, and then all my decisions are going through that, people are going to feel that, and they're going to want to be around me. They're going to want to work with me. They're going to want to do business with me. So that's what I approached it that way. And then when I DM people, they look at it and they're like, okay, this guy's legit. I want to be on that show. I want to be, involved with him. I want to do business with him. And so that's how I approach it. Now, Clubhouse days, I will compliment people that I feel deserve to be complimented. And then I'll say, hey, I would love to interview you on my show. You up for it? And I've never had anybody say no yet. Maybe I need to go after some even like more famous people because I'm shooting too low maybe. But at the end of the day,
I'm sure you've interviewed some epic people. 300, you said in your first podcast, 300 interviews. Is that combination of your podcast and you doing interviews?
Yeah, I've done well over since fall of 2019. I'm over 400 with like the combo. Yeah.
How many are you producing a week on your podcast?
We put 2 a week out, but in the wintertime when the weather sucks here in Maryland, I live on the ocean in Maryland here, and wintertime the weather's not that good. So I will, like, a lot of times I'll do, well, this week I have 8 podcasts or 9, 1 TV show and 8 podcasts. So in the wintertime, man, I pump them out and then I'll put them in the can, and then we just release 2 a week. So.
And what's the monetization strategy for that? Is it just awareness, getting your voice out, helping people? What's the mission for What Are You Made Of?
So really, that's a funny question because I didn't know at first. I just thought I'd get my story out, and I thought it was important for other people to get their story out. And my team at the mortgage company, they listen to the podcast with the experts that I bring on, and they learn a lot. We talk about them inside. So that's free content, free info, and free knowledge. But really what happened, there's a story in the Bible, and it's a movie that's been made out about Noah building this ark. I'm not comparing myself to Noah, just the story. Okay. So just let me get that clear. Yeah. But if you can remember, there's a story.
I wasn't even making that comparison.
So he built this ark, but he didn't know why he was building it. He was being told, whether you believe in God or not, he was being told, or his inclination was to build this ark, big giant thing. Right. And it never rained in that area. And people laughed at him. It took him 100 years to build. They ridiculed him. He kept doing it anyway. He stayed true to it. He didn't know why though. And then it became apparent to him why it happened. So what I found in my life is this happens to everybody. Some aren't aware of it, but I listen to what what's being told to me. Like I feel something, I go with it. Right. So I started doing these podcasts and I just leaned into it because I wanted to get good at it. I wanted to feel comfortable with it. And I wanted to feel confident to be able to ask anybody on my show. So as I was doing this, that's how I ran into Jared Yellen. And when Jared Yellen and I ran into each other, then it became clear to me that, okay, it was for finding someone to do something big with. And I just had to find that right person. And then now I have the credibility that goes along with that to be able to help with the tech incubator. And so everything just lines up sometimes, but you got to stay committed and true to your mission. And it becomes apparent. So that's what happened.
So you being the first app coming out of this incubator, do you have unlimited support? Is there a window, a time frame to which you have to take off? And what's that time frame?
Yeah. So first of all, we try to get these out in about 90 days for a minimal viable product. And it takes roughly, give or take $100,000 to $150,000 to get that minimal viable product out. And so that you can put it out to the market and start cash flowing. Our goal is to cash flow in like immediately so that we don't need to go raise capital right away. If it doesn't cash flow, but we still see that there's a need for it in the market, then what we do is we can raise capital. So, we're looking right now, we're launching this week, like over the next month or two, I want to get 100 people as fast as possible in there building blueprints. And then we offer.
So are you launching on iOS or both? Are you on Android and iOS?
Yeah.
Or where are you launching first?
It will be on both, but the first phase is just a website for the creators to go in and build their blueprints. And then there's going to be a marketplace where people can go and search the blueprints and buy them and use them. And that'll be apps and it'll be on both.
So as a person in the dating space, if I want to submit a blueprint, is there a cost? There's a cost to me to submit the blueprint and then a revenue opportunity for me. Is that the model?
Yes. So basically there's different packages. There's a freemium where you can go in and you can build one blueprint yourself. You can put it in the marketplace and sell it. And then we make a bigger cut of it if you do that package.
Got it.
But if you pay, I think it's, there's one package. It's like, I don't know, $100 a month. And if you pay that package, $1,200 a year, you can build unlimited blueprints and we only get 10% of what you sell. And then you get to keep the rest of whatever price you sell the blueprints at.
Got it.
Yeah. So it comes out to be $100 a month and then 10% of your sales at the best package.
That is so cool. It's a blueprint for everything. I love that concept.
Yep.
So what else are you working on right now? So you're diving into that. You've got the mortgage business. You got that book. What else is going on?
So the other thing, I figure that if I do one tech product, I might as well do more than one. So we already have another one in the works. It's called Tipperosity instead of generosity. It's I found myself, I was in the Fontainebleau, Miami, and I was at the valet, and then I went to the bellhop, and the same thing happened where I was like, oh shoot, I don't have money for tip. I had like $100 bills on me, and I said, do you have change? And he's like, no, you'd have to go to the front desk. And I'm like, what a pain in the butt. So I thought to myself, how awesome would it be if I could just take my phone and tap him or scan a QR code and then just pick an amount and he's tipped just like that. And I figured that if it was that easy, that people would be more generous with their tips. So I created this company with the 10X incubator called Tipperosity. And so we're creating an app where you can just scan or tap somebody and when you want to tip them, because how often have you been someplace and a lot of times you don't have the cash, nobody carries
Sometimes,
cash.
yeah, and most people don't carry cash anymore, right? So that's a great idea. That's awesome. And it's all about giving back. Amazing. Where can our friends find you, C-Roc? What's the website and Blueprint? Can you spell it out? I'm going to, for those who are listening, I will put it in the show notes, but for those who are listening, how do you spell it?
It's Blooprinted and it's BLOO printed, PRINTED, blueprinted.com. You can go to blueprinted.com and that website should be up here soon. It's under construction right now because we're launching. It should be out ready to go soon. But as far as finding me, guys, Mike C-Roc, if you Google anywhere, I made sure that I'm easy to find. My favorite apps are Instagram, Clubhouse. That's where most people communicate with me.
At Mikey C-Roc, yes. And you can listen to his podcast, What Are You Made Of? Buy his book. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. This guy literally answered my request like in 30 seconds. I'm like, I need a guest. He's like, I'm there. So thank you so much. You are rocket fuel in the making, and I can't wait to see you again.
Thank you, Carmel. I'm so thankful that you had me.